Hi! Welcome back to another video. So as you would have seen from the title and the thumbnail, we are doing the same kind of video again. I am reading my anticipated releases of 2023. I think this is the third video that I'm making with that theme for this year already. I am very much on track with actually reading my anticipated releases, so this is kind of just like a casual update video kind of thing. The TBR for this video, I would like to keep you in suspense for a little bit because I don't function well with TBRs for this particular format, and sometimes it just so happens that I planned to read this book but another book came in instead, so I just switch over. I'll just update as and when I pick up the book and my thoughts on it. The first book that I read for this video is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, who wrote the Final Girl support group. And for that particular book, I think I mentioned in some video that I made where I actually didn't particularly enjoy it. The Final Girl support group was about final girls, which is like this concept in movies. While reading that book, it gave me a lot of insight as to what final girls are and how slasher films are kind of like, and it was quite gory as well in terms of the horror elements, but the plot was just quite meh in my opinion. But then when I heard about How to Sell a Haunted House, it gave me very similar vibes to Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and I really enjoyed that one. I gave that 5 stars, so I was kind of chasing that feeling, which is why I decided to put this on the list and want to read it. What this book actually is about is essentially we follow Louise Joyner. She is a divorced mother and she has a child named Poppy. So she lives apart from her family. She moved to San Francisco, I think. One day she hears the news that her parents actually passed away, and so she has to come back to Charleston where they live and deal with the aftermath of that. She has a younger brother named Mark, and so they kind of have a strained relationship, so it doesn't really go over well when they eventually meet and stuff because they have conflicting opinions on how the funeral should be done. They both dislike each other, they have conflicts with each other, also what to do with the house that their parents left behind. But they eventually settle on wanting to sell the house, so they have to clear out the house together, and then that's when things start to get a little bit creepy because their mum has a love for puppets, and so the whole house is full of puppets and dolls and the like. Probably because she has liked this particular puppet since she was young. It's named Pumpkin. It's really creepy, like imagine so many dolls, and then apparently they start to move and stuff, and it's very, very creepy. The house seems haunted. While reading this, I really was very confused because I couldn't tell if what was happening was actually like a hallucination or someone was actually behind everything, or the house was haunted by like paranormal things. You don't know, and so I will not tell you as well, not to spoil the book. Quite creepy, but I wouldn't say that I was really scared in comparison to Home Before Dark, which is like the first horror that I really enjoyed, and I give that 5 stars. I was really, really scared while reading that, and it gave me a very good vibes, very good feeling about the book. And this one is just not up to that level, I would say. I didn't really vibe with any of the characters, so I didn't really care what was happening, but I would say that the creepy parts were still okay, so good enough. This book, right, is split into different sections, as you can see, and there was this particular section that I was just really bored. It has to do with Mark's perspective, and so I was just really bored while reading that, and so that was just one thing that I felt like I really didn't like about the book. But other than that, it was fine. So trigger warnings, not me forgetting to do this until now. Death of a parent, violence, injury, child death, car accident. So it was quite gory at some times as well. In the end, I decided to give it 3.5 stars because it was okay. It was not really good, but it wasn't really bad either. So it's just kind of in the middle, a bit better than the middle because of some parts that managed to shock or surprise me. But yeah, I think out of all the books that I've read for this particular video series, I think I enjoyed this the least. But it wasn't even that bad. It was just 3.5 stars, slightly above average read. So yeah, I hope the next 2 books that I read for this video will be better. Not sure which 2 books they are just yet, but it was still an okay start, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I'll update you again when I have updates for the next book.
Several days later.
Hello everybody. Normally I don't show skincare in any of my vlogs, but recently I think I did a 24-hour reading vlog, and then I was just updating while I was doing my skincare. I just felt like it's a very fun thing to do. So I thought, why not do it again, even though I'm not doing like a 24-hour readathon thing. But please look at my freaking hairband, it's so cute. I opened it today. This is featured in my 8/8 Shopee haul, which should be out already by the time this video goes out. So please go and look at all the other things that I got to give myself some retail therapy. It's pom-pom pouring. Yeah, okay. I cannot. Oh my god. I cannot multitask, but I will attempt while I do my skincare also. So I already cleansed my face. What did I cleanse my face with? It was like this Body Shop face wash. Do not know what it does, but it was cheap, so I bought it. Before I continue, I'm just gonna show you the book. So I started reading Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I'm like 52 pages in only, like right here. So nothing much to update about, but I mean, let's just talk about it, I guess, while I do my skincare. Okay, so firstly, I'm gonna do toner. Oh, I think from the previous video, I was using this April Skin toner that already expired. So I have finished up that bottle and I have moved on to my Torridon Dive-In toner that I got from Korea. Again, I am like a skincare noob, so please do not judge me, but if you have any advice, you can let me know. So Love Theoretically, I don't think I explained the story yet because this is literally my first update about the book. Love Theoretically follows Elsie Hanaway and Jack Smith. So Elsie is a theoretical physicist and she is an adjunct, which in those terms it kind of means like people in academia that suffer the most because they have barely any pay and they have to like teach a lot of classes across different universities. So she has to shuffle between 3 universities. It doesn't earn much and she is drowning in like her essays that she has to mark with students' emails that are getting sent to her inbox and flooding her inbox every day about how they cannot go because of I don't know what sickness they have. Then they have picture evidence of their crotch or whatever. She takes up this side hustle, which is like this fake dating thing. So she's like a fake girlfriend for people who needs her service. She doesn't do anything raunchy, she just acts as the fake girlfriend. Her favorite client is this guy called Greg. The first 2 chapters, I'm gonna pause and continue first. Next is Essence, which is this April Skin. It's the same one that I use, Real Calendula Deep Moisture Essence. So it has already expired. When I was using it previously, it hasn't expired, but now it has expired. So I'm trying my best to finish it up so that I can move on to my other things. So in the first 2 chapters, because now at page 52 we are like at the beginning of the 3rd chapter, the first 2 chapters showed her attending this gathering with Greg's family, and at the gathering she meets Jack Smith, who is Greg's older brother. She just kind of gets the vibe that Jack doesn't really like her for some reason. He's always scrutinizing her. He just makes her uncomfy in the fact that she feels like he knows something like that. But their chemistry can be seen from the party. One of his aunts being like, "Oh, you two make a very good couple," to Elsie and Jack, even though she was attending as Greg's date. Oh, my forehead is so shiny. After that, we then find out that Elsie is interviewing for this position at MIT to, I cannot really remember the exact details, but it is something along the lines of she'll be finally earning enough, more than just the peanuts that she's currently earning, to afford her rental, for example, and she doesn't need to starve herself to be able to do what she wants as her career. Pause. Next, it is the serum, the Torridon Balance Full Serum. So she is currently about to interview for that position, but before the actual interview she meets this, I forgot her name also, I guess she's her potential superior at the position. The superior gives her like the detailed inside explanation in that she might face very tough competition because there is another candidate interviewing for the position. There is more to the 2 of them in that Elsie is a theoretical physicist and the other candidate is a male and he is an experimental physicist. And these 2 physicists, theoreticists versus experimentalists, I have always like gone head to head with each other, because theoretical physicists, they are more of the thinkers, so they mostly do thinking work, but experimental physicists derive their work from, as the book's words, fucking around. A few years back, this renowned experimental physicist, Jonathan Smith, wrote this completely fake paper in the name of theoretical physics, and he submitted it for one of the theoretical physics journals, and it got published despite like the checking and whatever. So after that, Jonathan Smith came out with the blog post that was like, I submitted this shit paper and it got published in like a legitimate theoretical physics journal. So like, theoretical physicists are just full of bullshit. Like, what's the point of that field? Should they even be receiving tax residents' money? And that's where the whole field started. And because of that, the field suffered like a big downfall in that they were getting pay cuts, the number of people they were hiring decreased, things like that. Obviously, LC doesn't like Jonathan Smith, so she hasn't been tracking what he's been doing over the years, because that happened many years ago. Pause, we are gonna move on to eye cream. I'm using this Dior Super Potent Eye Serum. It's just like a freebie I got from my mom's skincare purchases. She was getting the tea from her superior at this informal gathering with the team prior to the interview and things like that. And then that's where she met Jonathan Smith, who is also Jack Smith. So that's where their worlds collided, and that's the extent of the story I know until now, which I just explained 50 pages in 10 minutes. I feel like that's too much time, but okay, yeah, anyway, my thoughts on the story so far, I think it's very interesting. It's nice to see that there's this other side to STEM that we can learn more about, because from the love hypothesis, we know more about Olive and Adam and their work, but now we are following Elsie and Jack and their work in like theoretical physics and experimental physics. I am not getting the 5-star feeling just yet, but I feel like it has a lot of potential, because I can sense the chemistry between them, and it's like a full novel. So while reading the STEMinist novellas, I didn't really enjoy some of them because I felt like it was too short. There wasn't enough time for their relationships between the characters to develop. So now that this is a novel, and it really gives me like the love hypothesis vibes, I hope that this would be a 5-star. So yeah, that is my thoughts so far. Finishing off with the last step of skincare, I also got this in today's unboxing haul. It is the Innisfree Jeju Cherry Blossom Jelly Cream. Looks like that. And then where's my spatula? Okay, I have not figured out like how to do this, but oh, look at it, it's so cool. There's a lot. Oh no, I think I should have waited for my eye cream to dry first, but oh well. Oh, I feel like I applied too much. I'm now done with skincare, even though I look like a mess. Oh, it's so interesting, this texture. This is where I will leave you until my next update. I hope this wasn't too, I don't know, disgusting, but yeah, I just like how everything is so colourful. Like, look at this. And then you have the pink from... Okay, yeah, goodbye. Hello. So I just wanted to come and update before I finished the book, because I'm almost done. So I have been reading a lot theoretically, as you would have seen from the time-lapse clips. I am currently at page 264 out of 384. And look at my tabs so far. I think at the start, while I was doing my skincare and all that, I was saying that it's good, but I haven't really gotten the 5-star feeling just yet. And guys, I found the 5-star feeling. I think it happened in the middle of the book. So as you would see, like most of my tabs are from the middle of the story. And this one was really very slow burn. And I really like that. The audiobook is also really good. Oh my god, please listen to the audiobook. Like even when Elsie is tired and yawning, then the audiobook narrator will also say her dialogue while yawning. And it's just like, wow. I thought this would be a bit iffy because of the fact that Elsie was previously like fake dating Jack's brother, right? But wow, it's not. And I'm just very... It's so good. So Elsie is a character that overthinks a lot. So she tries to analyze people, think about what they would want to see her portray in terms of whether they want her to be like the perfect girlfriend or like the friend who loves whatever they likes and things like that. So she's a people pleaser and then she will become that person. But Jack notices that thing that Elsie does and he's very good at reading her also. So he'll be like, don't overthink, just say what you want to say. Don't ask me what I want, just let me know what you want, things like that. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, because okay, I also have problems making decisions, right? Because I'm just like, you do whatever, man, I'm fine with everything. Jack, oh my god, this guy, he's like so whipped for Elsie even before everything. And Elsie was just like, oh, we hate each other, even though it's not, he likes her. So there's also the thing about her interviewing for the faculty position at MIT, right? So there is that plot line over there. There is something vaguely hinted at that also happened for the love hypothesis, which both stories I predicted what would happen. This one hasn't occurred yet, but I really feel like it's going to happen soon since we're approaching the end also. And I really love their chemistry, like oh my goodness. The same problem with Ali Hazelwood's books is still there, wherein he is big, he is gigantic, he's like the freaking Mount Rushmore. Oh my god, there's literally a line. Okay, now I cannot find it, but it's something like the Mount Rushmore of STEM. And also Elsie sometimes just really doesn't get it and it just gets on my nerves, which I have tapped in yellow, but it's fine. I mean, everything else is so perfect, right? And the fact that, I think this is a spoiler, so I'm gonna like put a spoiler warning. The characters from Love on the Brain and the Love Hypothesis are featured in this story. So for Love on the Brain, she just vaguely mentioned like, oh, I need to thank the person behind the What Would Marie Do account, and that is the story of Love on the Brain. And the Love Hypothesis, Jack and Adam are friends in this story, and they meet at one of Jack's gatherings with his friends, and that was when the Mount Rushmore of STEM thing came about, because they were both very big and very tall. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. Like, I love seeing these crossover interactions. I'm basically like gushing and gushing about the story even though I'm not done, and I really wanted to take my time with the story. It's very conflicting because I wanted to finish the story as fast as possible because it's so good, right? But I didn't want to finish it at the same time because then the story will be over and I don't know what to do after this story finishes. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, I have a lot of things to read, but I don't think they can live up to this. Very conflicted. And also, oh my goodness, her mentor is Dr. Laurendale. He miscalls her name as Elise, which is my name. And I'm just like, I did not know that the Elsies of the world faced the same problem as the Elises of the world, in that people miscall their names as the other. I did not know this, okay? I really just thought that Elsie was the more common name. So I'm very shocked by this revelation. Maybe it's not, maybe it's just like a random thing that happened for Elsie in this story, but I'm just very mind blown. It made me have less of a dislike for the name Elsie, but it still causes me trauma with the amount of times people have mistakenly called me Elsie. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish the story and come back to let you know my rating. Hopefully it's still like a 5-star feeling from what I'm getting now. Yes, goodbye. Hi, hello. Okay, so I have been down with stomach flu for the past 3-ish days. So if I look like shit, that's why. Today I'm mostly better. Still have a headache. Kind of feel like vomiting, but it's okay. I'm just gonna update now because while I was sick, there was nothing that I could do except sleep and attempt to read. So I actually finished Love Theoretically. Look at my tabs. Let's talk about trigger warnings first. Trigger warnings for ableism, alcohol, death of a parent, past, recalled, and misogyny. I think I remembered saying that it was giving me the 5-star vibes, and I was just very much enjoying their chemistry together. As the book progressed, my prediction turned out to be true, by the way. So like super spot on. Not sure if that says that the book is predictable, but yeah. In the end, after much consideration, I decided to give this book 4.5 stars, while at the same time lowering my rating for Love on the Brain from 4.5 to 4.25 stars. Yes, I went back to see the video wherein I talked about my review for Love on the Brain, and as I recalled the book itself in my personal preference and ranking. If I were to rank the stories, The Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, and Love Theoretically, from most to least enjoyed, it would be The Love Hypothesis, Love Theoretically, and then Love on the Brain. So I don't know, I cannot explain why the first book is still the best for me also, because something just hit me when I was first reading it that just made me want to give that book 5 stars. And while this book halfway through it did, and I remember myself saying before that if a book even vaguely gave me the notion of wanting to give it a 5 star, I would. But the thing is, towards the end of the story, that feeling kind of deteriorated. Not sure if it's my problem, because I kind of dragged out the last part of the book, because for one, I was working, so I was too busy to continue reading, and then the story kind of dragged a bit at the end, and then with me taking a little bit longer to read it as compared to binging it might have affected my rating for it. But after that, the feeling kind of lowered. I also took to my Instagram story to ask my besties who read all 3 of the books how they would rate it. One of them said Love Theoretically, Love Hypothesis, then Love on the Brain. The other said, Abby said Love Hypothesis, Love Theoretically, and then Love on the Brain. And she said Love on the Brain was just boring to her. So for me, even before the answers came in, right, I was already trying to think about it. As I was reading the middle of the book, I still feel that the middle of this book is the best. And at that point, I would have said that this book was at the top, then Love Hypothesis, then Love on the Brain. But after I finished it, I'm more inclined to say the Love Hypothesis, then Love Theoretically, then Love on the Brain, which I'm sure others may disagree, but that's fine, that's just my opinion. Let me just explain a bit more. Ali Hazelwood also wrote in her author's note that this is by far the most academic book that she has written, and she has been wanting to tell a love story set against the backdrop of academic politics for a while, and for this one she really let herself get into the weeds, maybe a little too much. For me, I thought actually it was fine. Like, the amount of academic politics in here was really interesting to read about, because it's obviously something that she has experienced in her life in academia. So it's like very interesting to know more about this world. But at the same time, it also felt like Elsie was a little bit too, I want to say she's like a caricature, but there might be someone that is really like that, but I don't know, because I also mentioned that I have trouble deciding things, but I don't lie until the point where it's like I separate myself into making myself into a different person just to fit what the person wants. Like, I am a people pleaser, but I don't do it to that extent. Elsie does that, and Jack is somehow the only person who can see through her facade, and then that's where the connection lies also. So they spend a lot of the book working on that problem of Elsie's, which I find really very sweet, because Jack is very understanding. Even though he's clearly whipped and head over heels and lusting after her, he doesn't want to rush into it, because he doesn't want Elsie to unconsciously or maybe consciously try to become an Elsie that he would want. For example, he doesn't want her to have sex with him just because she thinks he wants to, which is like super pure of him. And it also helps in the slow burn, I guess. But because of that whole thing, this book is quite long, I would say, and because of that, they have this thing about honesty with each other, and it just keeps getting played out in the story for a very long time. And then I'm just like, okay, I get it. We don't need to keep saying honesty so many times in this story. Oh, but what I really liked, right, it's just Jack's character is so perfect. Like, oh my goodness, he is very, very understanding of her type 1 diabetes, and he clearly makes an effort to understand more. He wants to learn more, and it doesn't affect how he views her. It's just really cute, really good representation of type 1 diabetes, I would say. Not that I'm own voices or anything, but I would like to say that it's a very refreshing to see in a story. I also really liked the interviewing for the faculty position plot point in here, because I really couldn't predict where things would go, like whether she'll be hired or not. And I really liked how the story developed from there. So there are a lot of very interesting plot points in here. Like, we have the academia politics between experimental and theoretical physicists. We also have her interviewing for the faculty position. We have her diabetes in this story, as talked about a lot. We have that thing that I was foreshadowed and already could tell what will happen, and it's kind of linked to academia as well. Then we also have Elsie's character with her being a people pleaser too much, like overly much. And I guess it's related to the politics between theoretical and experimental physicists, but also that article that Jack wrote a long time ago. So there's a lot of different things happening in this story, which makes for a very complicated story, which I can see why the book is longer than I expected, but inadvertently it drags out the story as well, especially their romance with each other, such that by the time they actually get together, it's like quite late into the story. And then after that, the third act conflict that comes in felt quite out of nowhere, a bit random, a bit like, okay, yes, I get that it's serious, but also really like suddenly, and then after that it gets resolved, in my opinion, I would say quite easily, and the repercussions of that weren't say like super big also. So I would say that the ending wasn't as satisfying as the build-up was leading to be. So in comparison, The Love Hypothesis, it had a relatively simpler plot, which may appear to some as like just a simple stupid love story, but I felt like it was more complete in that you have your set of problems. Some of them might be predictable, but they get wrapped up really well, they get developed well. It's a very good story with good pacing. But this one, the middle was the best part. The last part was kind of like almost there but not quite, you know. But this book was very good, so much better than Love on the Brain, because Love on the Brain had a few scenes towards the end that were like, like what, where is this coming from? This is a bit ridiculous, out of hand. But this didn't. It's really good. It's 4.5 stars. Like, everybody, please, this is still a favorite. I'm just trying to explain my feelings towards this book and why this didn't end up being my favorite out of the 3 that she has written. The steamy scenes in this though were like better than the Love Hypothesis ones. This is so much more steamy. I might change my opinion about this, who knows, like how I lowered my rating for Love on the Brain. Maybe a few months later I'll up my rating for this one. But that's what I'm feeling for it right now. That's what I'm gonna say about this. I hope I managed to explain myself despite whatever brain fog that is currently occupying my brain. If you have read all 3 books yourself, I would like to pose you the same question which I asked my Instagram besties. How would you rank your enjoyment of the 3 books from most to least enjoy, and why? I'm a bit sad now because the next book by Ali Hazelwood isn't coming out for a long while. I mean, there is Check and Mate, which is coming out in November, but that's YA. She has a vampire book, but that's not contemporary romance. I don't know when the next one will be, so we shall see. Now, moving on to the last book of this video, I have already started reading Flower Heart. I should have read Love Theoretically for the last, right? But I couldn't resist myself, so this is the last book. I don't have as high expectations for this as compared to Love Theoretically, because the Goodreads rating, let me check it like right now, is 3.55. So I don't want to read the reviews because I feel like that will affect my own perception of this story. But I am at page 110 out of 342. Let me first read to you the synopsis of this. Clara's magic has always been wild, but it's never been dangerous. Then a simple touch causes poisonous flowers to bloom in her father's chest. The only way to heal him is to cast an extremely difficult spell that requires perfect control, also known as a blessing. And the only person willing to help is her former best friend Xavier, who's grown from a sweet, shy child into a mysterious and distant young man. Xavier asks for a terrible price in return, knowing Clara will give anything to save her father. As she struggles to reconcile the new Xavier with the boy she once loved, she discovers their bargain is only one of the heavy secrets he's hiding. And as she hunts for the truth, she instead finds the root of a terrible darkness that's taken hold in the Queendom, a darkness only Clara's magic is powerful enough to stop. I went into this story without even reading the synopsis when I first started the book. So now we are at the point where Clara is an apprentice for Xavier, and she's trying to learn how to control her magic and be able to summon a blessing to help her father. And it's reading like a very low stakes YA cozy fantasy at the moment. I guess the stakes aren't that low because her father is like dying, but maybe because it's YA, it just feels very like, oh, it's not that serious kind of vibes. I'm sorry if that was offensive, that's what it gives off the feeling to me. And the margin is really huge, so it just feels like a really quick read, and you can just like totally read it really quickly. And from what I'm reading so far, I wouldn't say that it's the best story, but I wouldn't say it's like super bad as well. Maybe it might be like a 3-star, because I don't feel like it would be a memorable story. Thoughts on it so far is that it's feeling quite meh, but it's not say terrible. I think Clara and Xavier, there is some potential for romance between the two of them. I'm sure it's some kind of misunderstanding that has resulted in their relationship becoming strained, and then we'll find out later on in the story, which I'll update you once I'm further into the story. Nothing special. I mean, look at the cover. I couldn't resist putting this on my reading anticipated books list. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave you at this point and come back when I have more things to say about this story. I feel like one thing that can make the book better, right, is if there were some kind of animal to further cement this as like a cozy fantasy. That's the vibe I'm getting. So yeah, anyway, goodbye. Hi, so I finished Flower Heart by Catherine Bakewell, and so I'm just here to give my review for it, starting with trigger warnings first. I'm like in a bit of a shock because I dropped my phone earlier today, the one that I'm currently using to film, right, and then now it's kind of like the screen has detached itself from my phone. But yeah, anyway, I worry for my future, but there's a problem for another time. Trigger warnings for drug abuse, drug use, body horror, mental illness, abandonment, and injury. So in the end, I decided to give Flower Heart 3 stars as originally what I said in the previous clip. Everything stands true. The story is very typical, nothing special about it, but I would say that it's a very good read for those who are new to fantasy. I guess it's good for young adult in that it's very pure, very sweet, nothing special, but it's good. I would say that maybe a younger audience would appreciate this more in the young adult category. Their romance was fine, I guess. It wasn't like earth-shattering, but it was still kind of cute. But I really, throughout the whole book, couldn't find it in me to care very much because it's very typical. I knew where things were going. I was just honestly skimming a lot of the time. So yeah, I decided to give it a 3 star, and with that we have finished this video. And I think this is actually one of the books that has gotten a relatively lower rating throughout my reading anticipated releases vlog video series thing. Kinda sad, but it's okay because this list, throughout this video journey, I have read a lot of my anticipated releases and actually really liked a lot of them. So I'm not feeling too bummed about this, especially because I already went in knowing that the reviews aren't the best for it. I'm completely fine, just a bit sad that this is the end of this video on such like a relatively lower note, but it's okay. Yeah, definitely still going to continue reading more anticipated releases of the year. Yeah, if you are still watching, please comment a flower emoji because flowers were mentioned very often in Flower Heart. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel to see more of such content. I hope you're having a great day or a great week whenever or wherever you're watching, and I will see you in my next video.